What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Streckbein, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they were hit with some massive injury news just ahead of their week one matchup with the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to dive into Russell Wilson missing practice, what it means for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the level of concern that Steelers fans and the Pittsburgh Steelers should have. Is it Justin Fields' time, and does this change anything this close to game time? And then we got something a little bit fun for you guys. It is kickoff of the NFL season tonight, Baltimore Ravens versus Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going to give you our predictions for the 2024 campaign. Who wins the divisions? Who's headed to the playoffs? Who's headed to the Super Bowl come February? On top of that, like we do every single day, we will answer all of your questions, so make sure that they are in the chat. Nick, it's a good one today in the Berg. I'm sipping on the grossest, and I'm a big Alani guy, but this tops the Gorilla. I took a sip of this, the first one before we jumped on here, as the intro was coming on, gave a little like face because it was terrible. But besides that, we're doing well. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good. I'm sorry I missed that. Usually, when we're not on screen, I'm looking at your box because typically, we don't expect anybody to be looking at us, and it's always interesting to see what we do when everything's not on. So I'm sorry I missed that, but I'm feeling pretty good. Up until a little bit of anxiety of what we saw from practice, it's been a great day. First day of the NFL season, not to mention the fact that Cam Hayward was on Hot Ones, and I watch every single Thursday. So to see him on Hot Ones, it was one of the best ones I've seen in a while. So enjoyed that thoroughly. So I'm sitting pretty good right now, ready for kickoff at 8:20 and ready to have some discussions with you here for the next hour to help get us to 8:20.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my boy, John Alfano, who will be covering the Baltimore Ravens game from the Baltimore side tonight in the kickoff. You can find that at si.com/NFL/Ravens. I did not watch the Hot Ones episode yet. It was good.
It was good. It was like an NFL is back type of thing. It was weird because there's only 5 wings, not 10. But I think I'll tell you right now, and I won't spoil too much. Yeah. Cam made up for the fact that there was only 5 there.
Okay. All right. Then I'm excited. I'll turn it on. That'll be the pregame. You know what I mean? Like before the pregame, as we're sitting around really waiting for NFL kickoff tonight. That's exciting. For everybody else who didn't get to watch it yet, go check it out. The Pittsburgh Steelers hit with some massive news today. So as me and the rest of the media members, the rest of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is sitting there watching practice, one thing stood out above literally everything, and that is that Russell Wilson was not on the field, at least not participating. Afterwards, Mike Tomlin said that his calf injury had some tightness just before practice today, and because of that, they held him out. They'll evaluate him tomorrow. He'll probably get checked as a precaution, he says, but it's still a giant mystery. This is 2 days before the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Atlanta. You only have one practice remaining after this, and while a guy that's 35 years old playing quarterback, typically this is nothing. But a guy who has missed most of the summer with a calf injury was trying as hard as humanly possible to play it off as this was nothing, this is not a big deal, this is whatever. We're sitting here 3 days before kickoff, 3 days before week one, and he misses a practice because it flares up and it is tight again. I think it's a cause for concern. The Pittsburgh Steelers have to be, to some degree, preparing for a change and for Justin Fields to have to take over if need be. And on top of this is the first, okay, is this going to be an all-season thing warning sign? Because you were kind of hoping the calf injury was what it was. It was no big deal. They played it as safe as humanly possible. They got into the regular season. Now it's gone. We never have to worry about it again. Instead, you're starting to think, okay, for one, maybe this was a little bit more serious than we anticipated it being, than we maybe have fallen for it because they tried to play it off as hard as they could. And is it going to last all year long? I mean, this raises a billion questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially when it comes to a guy in Justin Fields sitting behind him. But 2 days before, I got a lot of thoughts on this. I'll let you explain yours before I dive into it any further. You saw the news, I mean, maybe an hour ago. What were your thoughts as it happened?
Yeah, it is cause for concern for me because the one thing that I've been saying this entire preseason about Russ's calf injury is it makes me think of last year whenever Joe Burrow had a similar injury to his calf, and he wasn't really right until probably game 7 is when we saw him at his best. Joe Burrow is not 35 years old though, so that's
Nope.
why I was concerned about it. I was happy to not hear about it at all throughout the preseason once Russ got back onto the field, but the fact that it flares up not just a couple days before the season, but the fact that it flares up in day 2 of practice this week.
Yep.
Yesterday, whenever they had their first injury report come out, he was nowhere to be seen on it. But today, a second day into the week, that makes me a little bit concerned. Of course, there's still a lot to be determined. They're saying they're just exercising an abundance of caution, which is good. But at the same time, I do have a little bit of concern because you look at what happened last year with Burrow. Russell Wilson's a little bit older. If it's starting to bother him once again about a month and a half later, it's not a good sign. Let's just say that.
Yeah, no, you look at it right now and you got to think, what does the season look like for Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers? And where do you go from here? Because if this is an all season long thing, if this is you have to be cautious about Russ's play on the field, how much can you actually do with him? Can you keep him out there week to week? Is this going to being a once a week he's good, the next week he's not? Is he going to turn into, I mean, shout out Larry Ogunjobi, man. He's played all summer long, and last season he didn't practice once, it felt like. Is that going to be Russell Wilson this season? That raises a ton of questions, and it raises almost no concern if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, massive concern still in this alternate universe. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kyle Allen is your backup quarterback, you don't even talk about this. You're just hoping for the best. Russ is going to be out there. I'm feeling optimistic Russ is going to play. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to push him as hard as they could possibly push him every single week, and they're going to be as cautious as they could during the practice time and then play him to make sure that they're not missing a beat. You got a guy like Justin Fields behind him. You got to think things change. You have to think that they look at this and say, okay, if this is going to be an all-the-time thing, do we make a change at quarterback at some point? Do you know, how good does Justin have to be before you seriously consider, let's go with the healthy guy who's younger over Russ, who's injured and probably can't give us 100% all season? Can Russ run all of Arthur Smith's offense, which definitely includes a mobile quarterback with a calf injury? And can he do that all season long? There are massive questions that come from today, not from yesterday, not from training camp, not from him missing the preseason. None of that. You could overlook all of that. You could overlook him being hurt and dealing with the calf injury every single day up until today. Today, you look at it and you say, okay, we're in the regular season. Now it counts. Now you have to be as good as you can possibly be. And maybe Russ isn't capable of giving the Pittsburgh Steelers what they need in a quarterback right now. And I'm not saying play-wise. I'm just saying health-wise and what the offense is supposed to look like and what they're supposed to run. And you have another option in Justin Fields that maybe you look at and say, well, he can do everything that we're looking for him to do. He's not as good as Russell Wilson. Like, I'll admit that. I think throwing the football, Russell Wilson's head and shoulders above Justin Fields, and I don't think Justin Fields is a capable starting quarterback right now where we stand, but I think he's got the potential to be, and I think he could run, and he's as athletic as they come for a quarterback. You got to question if the Pittsburgh Steelers' minds start turning about the what-ifs now that Russ is sitting here missing practice, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Let me ask you this. If you're the Steelers and Russ does not practice tomorrow, are you playing him on Sunday?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, he is a veteran. So you look at this, and even knowing that he is in a new system, that he's on a new team, you understand that he's probably got a good grasp of the playbook, and he probably has enough of a chemistry with these guys to be able to go out and play. But the one thing that stands out to me is considering the uncertainty and the health of the offensive line, that makes me more concerned. That makes me more concerned throwing a guy out there with a bum wheel and saying, all right, try to figure it out, because the offensive line has several question marks already. For that reason, I'd probably lean towards Justin Fields, especially if Russell Wilson is not good to practice tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I look at it the same way. Is that if Russ does not practice tomorrow, my thought is he can't run this offense the way that the Steelers need him to run this offense. And if you had a loaded offensive line, if you had a great wide receiver core, if you knew you had no reason for concern on offense and things were going to be just fine, you play Russell Wilson because he's your starting quarterback and you think you could get enough out of him to make this work. But where the Pittsburgh Steelers currently stand, their quarterback needs to win them games, needs to be able to go out there and do the extra stuff because they don't have the extra stuff around him. And right now, I don't think Russ can do that. And that's a huge concern. So let me ask you the next question that comes with that. Justin goes out there and throws for 300 yards. Hypothetical, big hypothetical.
Justin it is his home state, so let's not rule it out.
True. Very true. Very true. Justin goes out there, throws for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, looks good, runs for a lot. The Steelers win. Is this Russ's job, or did Russ just lose his job with the Steelers?
That is a hard one, especially knowing what the week 2 opponent is. And I know that shouldn't play a role in this, but knowing who the week 2 opponent is, I think it does end up playing a role in this. It would be even tougher. That's a horrible decision to make because you have Justin Fields, who, by all accounts, had a pretty impressive preseason. He showed his warts. Those warts have been there his entire career. Can he grow out of them eventually? Sure. That's a conversation that we've always had, but they still went with Russ after that. The fact that he's injured, even if he comes back next week after missing a week, is he going to be 100% again? I think if Justin Fields goes out and does what you're saying he does, and again, in a hypothetical land where he throws for 300, he leads them to victory, he scores multiple touchdowns, I think you got to roll with them until the wheels fall off here, because as we've said several times, Steelers are not linked to either of these quarterbacks past this season, and you're trying to get the best out of this season as you can. I think you roll with the guy that's the hot hand, and if that's the case, Justin would be the hot hand, and Russ would probably still not be 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a good point by Stephen Cornfield here. If Russ sits any early games and Fields balls out, then at that point, it's Justin's time in pole position. I agree. And I think that the Steelers might play it the same way, where they look at it and say, look, there'll be a quarterback competition next week. We'll see what happens. But Justin's probably going to take more team 1 reps. And let's be totally honest. Let's lay this right out here, that the way we think and the way we operate and what makes sense in our heads doesn't always, and most times really doesn't ever, make sense in Mike Tomlin's head, and is not the way he rolls with his job. So there is equally as good of a shot that Justin Fields goes out there, has the game of his life, and Mike Tomlin walks in on Tuesday and says Russell Wilson is our starting quarterback no matter what. Everyone has to remember that. And I do not, I disagree 100% if that ends up being the case, but there is definitely a possibility that situation happens and Mike Tomlin refuses to acknowledge it. But these are all hypotheticals. These are all, and this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. We don't live in hypotheticals. So this is a massive question, but it's huge news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is something to monitor. This is tomorrow's biggest conversation. This is the weekend's biggest conversation. I don't think there's any chance the Steelers rule out Russ if he does not play or if he does not practice tomorrow. I think at bare minimum, he's questionable. But if you go into questionable, by Saturday, they'll know, which means that me and you will probably know by Saturday as well, one way or another, whether or not Justin Fields or Russell Wilson is going to be that guy. But it's a big one. On top of that, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Russell Wilson limited, Roman Wilson limited as well, continues to be. Corey Trice gets upgraded to full along with Jaylen Warren. That's awesome. And Troy Fautanu, which is great news. Darnell Washington, hit with the knee injury, did not practice. Saw him wobbling around yesterday. That's never a good sign this early. Something to monitor. For right now, we'll keep it as this could be tough. That's another big loss for the Steelers. But Troy Fautanu coming back, that's big, which means you don't have to rely on your tight ends to block as much. And Michael Pruitt, I think it's his time to shine if Darnell does not play in week 1. But that is your Thursday injury report for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to dive into a little fun segment that we got coming back. We are going to break down the NFL season before kickoff, give you guys our predictions, and then as we end every single show, we will do that by answering all of your questions. So toss all of them in the chat. But first, we got a word from our boys over at DraftKings. What's up, guys? It's football season, and we've teamed up with DraftKings. Right now, new customers who bet $5 will receive $250 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, you'll receive 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. It's hard to think of a better way to celebrate fall weather, your favorite jersey, and Sunday touchdowns than with the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings app and use our promo code ALLSteelers. That's $250 in bonus bets instantly and 1 month of NFL Plus Premium after betting just $5. Stay in the action and use your $250 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You could still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ALLSteelers and bet just $5 on any wager and get $250 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSteelers only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Shout out our boys over at DraftKings. Have you put in your bets for tonight yet?
I've not. I've slacked on it, but I'll load up the DraftKings Sportsbook app once we're done here. I'll take a good look, and I'm thinking, Travis Kelce anytime touchdown's pretty safe, but I'm going to take the Xavier Worthy over. I think is the one thing that I'm looking at for my own bet slip.
Ooh, I think it's like 46.5 though.
Easy. Easy.
Oh, he says easy.
Hollywood Brown says easy. I'm saying easy.
Oh, but Rashid Rice is still there.
And
Juju Smith-Schuster, my friend.
Okay, let's move on to the next segment. If you're bringing up
Juju, doing here? All right, that's a ballsy. I'm going Noah Gray over 12.5. Isaiah Likely over 1.5 receptions. Travis Kelce anytime touchdown, my friend. Feeling good. Derrick Henry over 64.5 yards.
Wow, you got a lot going tonight. I know you had a little extra.
I got parlays, but I got a text. I don't know if you guys saw my tweet today, but I got a text at 6:45 in the morning from my buddy that says, "What are the bets? We're fucking back, baby." And it was the first thing I read this morning, and I was like, I didn't even see it on my phone. I opened my laptop, and I was like, "Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. Football is officially here." So yeah, I'm loaded up. I won't lie to you. My DraftKings account is it was fully stocked. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel right now, but we're having a great time. All right. Let's have a little fun before the NFL season. I'm very excited for this segment. I've been thinking about it all week. We're going to break down, we're going to guess. We did this yesterday, but we're going to give our own predictions, each person here for the AFC and the NFC, our wild card teams, fill out the playoffs, and then who's in the AFC, NFC championships, and our predictions for the Super Bowl before kickoff tonight. Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens. Let's start in the AFC. I'll let you go first. AFC, North, South, West, and East. Who do you got?
All right, North, I'm going to rock with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's as easy as, is Joe Burrow going to be healthy? If he is, I think the Bengals take the division. If he isn't, I think he goes another way. So I'm going to stick with the Bengals. I think he goes healthy. AFC West, not going against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we were in agreement on that. I'm sure you'll echo that sentiment. Yeah. AFC South, I'm rolling with the Texans, although I'm kind of gritting my teeth. It's hard for a quarterback to do it in his rookie year and then come back and do it in his second year. But I really like what they have down there in Houston. I really like CJ Stroud. So I'm going to roll with them in the AFC South. And then the East, I'm going with Tua and the Dolphins. They're going to be able to get a home game in the playoffs, which is huge for them. But again, I think the regular season is where they shine, and I think Mike McDaniel gets them over that finish line and gets them into first place in the AFC East.
Okay, I like it. I'm going the North, the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are it, and I think they're going to be good, but I'm not 100% convinced that Joe Burrow is going to last the season. It's that every other year that you pointed out. It's a good role to run with, but I'm going Baltimore Ravens. I feel consistency is key, and that's all I'm looking for here. Consistency is key. It's going to get you one game ahead of everybody else. I'm going Baltimore Ravens. The Kansas City Chiefs is the easiest answer in the whole world. I don't know what their odds are to win, but I would imagine it's like negative 16,000, something crazy like that, because there's just no chance that doesn't happen. Even if Patrick Mahomes went down tonight, I would still bet the Kansas City Chiefs to win that division. Just because it's Andy Reid and the rest of that team, and I think they could get it done. The Houston Texans, I agree with you. There's some concern for a rookie entering his second year. Do you take a step backwards? What happens? There's also equally as much optimism is this the Super Bowl year for the Houston Texans? Because that second year quarterback, that tends to be the one of like, okay, this is when he takes them to the promised land. It happens a lot. And then I'm in disagreement with you with the East. I'm going Bills. I think Josh Allen gets it done. I think the Miami Dolphins are going to have some hiccups. I think they look good, but I don't have any faith in Tua. And until I do have faith in Tua, I'm not going to bet on the Miami Dolphins. I'm going Bills. Josh Allen just seems to win. He doesn't win all the time. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He might not win you a Super Bowl, but he wins in the regular season, and he's a grinder. And I think that they will get the job done then. I'm going Buffalo Bills. The NFC, North, South, West, and East. Who you got?
All right, North, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. I like the Green Bay Packers. I know everybody is high on the Green Bay Packers, but the Lions are a team that have been there and done that. They're a little bit more veteran-laden than the Green Bay Packers are, and I just feel like it's their year once again to take that NFC North. West, same thing as the AFC West. I'm not going with anybody besides the San Francisco 49ers. Open the book, close the book, shut it down. That's an easy answer. South, I'm going with the Falcons. The South has always been a crapshoot in the NFC, at least for the last handful of years. It's been the Bucs division simply because nobody else really wanted to claim it. The Falcons went out. They added a lot of pieces this summer. They got the new coaching staff in. They got the new kind of vibe in there down in Atlanta. So I'm going to take them in the NFC South. And then in the North or the East is the one I haven't had yet.
The East, the ones you got left.
Something about the Eagles just makes me uneasy. So I'm going to roll with the Cowboys to take the division.
Oh, you're not gonna like my NFC when we get to the wild card here. All right, so the North, I agree with you. I think it's the Lions division. I like the Packers, but Jordan Love only did it for half a season, and I need to see a full season plus some before I'm gonna say he's gonna beat Dan Campbell, bite your kneecaps off, and the Detroit Lions. And I think they got better. I think they got a lot better. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is gonna explode this year. I got a lot of faith in the Detroit Lions. I'm going Detroit. The West or the South, the Atlanta Falcons. I agree. This has been Bucs territory for a while, but there's been no competition. Kirk Cousins, he just wins games, man. He's a good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl. He's going to retire from the NFL worth $1 billion, winning 1 billion games, and have maybe 2 playoff wins under his belt. And you know what? That's a great career for Kirk Cousins, because to be honest, that's exactly what we all thought he was going to do, and that's what he did. So shout out to Kirk Cousins. I'm going the Falcons. The West, the 49ers with these. This is not a competition. This is the 49ers division. I get it. It's a good division, but I'm going 49ers. The East, I'm going the Eagles. You're going to hear from me in a second, and I might be foreshadowing a little bit too much, but I am very down on the Cowboys. I don't think this is a Cowboys year at all. In fact, I think this is the beginning of the end of where the Cowboys are, and there's going to be some tough roads ahead down in Dallas and Jerry World. So I'm going Eagles as my winner in the East. Next is the wild card. We'll go the AFC first. You got 3 wild card teams. Hit me with them.
Yeah, I do agree that Josh Allen and the Bills aren't going to fall off entirely. I know that his wide receiver room is questionable, but to be completely honest, I like Keon Coleman, and I like Josh Allen that much too. I think they're still a playoff team this year. Baltimore Ravens, even though I don't have them winning the division, I do have them making the playoffs. It's Lamar Jackson, and it's a similar situation to Cincinnati, that as long as Lamar is out there, the Baltimore Ravens are going to be a team that's going to be in the thick of things. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. And you know what? It might be a little bit of homerism, but I just feel like the roster and the defense is too good. So I'm going to take the Steelers to be that 7th and final playoff team.
Yeah, I'm the exact same situation as you, but just with my different divisional winners. So the Bengals are my team. I think they creep in. I think they're 1 game off from, I wouldn't be surprised if the Baltimore Ravens win 13 games this year and the Bengals win 12, and they just don't make the play, or they don't win the division because of something like that. And then they get the first wild card spot. The second wild card spot, the Miami Dolphins. I'm not high on Tua, but they're going to win games, and they're also going to edge out everybody else. They're not going to have a worse record than the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're not going to have a worse record than the Los Angeles Chargers or the Tennessee Titans, no matter how many times people want to bold predict them in there. You want to know a team we are forgetting, though? The New York Jets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't forget them. I just didn't put them in. You know,
I
I
agree.
know who they are. Honestly, I predicted them to beat the Steelers in week, I believe it's 7
You
that they
did.
go head to head. But yeah, I think that they're still the Jets. Aaron Rodgers is fine, but the team around him is not that much better than it was last year or the year before that.
I agree. I don't think the Jets are the Jets are the Jets, man. They're the Browns are the Browns, the Jets are the Jets. They just do Jet things and they lose. So I'm going Dolphins as my second. I'm going Steelers as my third. Mike Tomlin gets you to the playoffs. He wins football games. He's got to prove a lot this year, but I know that the quarterback competition is weird and the wide receiver room stinks, but I just think there's enough here to make it work and to have some fun. And Mike Tomlin's going to win when you need him to win. And I wouldn't be surprised if they squeak out a win against like Kansas City late in the season or Philadelphia late in the season or Cincinnati late in the season, just to be like, all right, we're in. There it is. So I'm going Bengals, Dolphins, Steelers as my AFC wildcard teams. NFC, you got 3 of them. Who you got?
Yeah, 2 of them are pretty cut and dry, pretty simple. I'm going with the Packers and I'm going with the Eagles, 2 playoff teams from last year. I just think that there's still playoff teams going into this year. And then in my last spot, and this might be a hot take, this might be something that a lot of people disagree with, I'm going with the Chicago Bears in that 7th and final spot. I think that they have a lot of good receivers. I think Caleb's going to be pretty good this year. I think they got a good offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron. And I think they were 7-10 last year with a lot of those things not going in the right direction. So with the fact that I also believe the rest of the field is kind of weak, I'm going to go with the Bears. It's a long shot. It's a money play on DraftKings, but I'm going to say that they squeak into the playoffs this year.
Yep. So I'm going the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
I'm feeling good on the Packers. I mean, I just they're going to get there. They're not going to miss the playoffs. They're not going to beat the Lions, but they're not going to miss the playoffs. My number 2 here is the Los Angeles Rams. I think they get in there. I have a hard time. Matt Stafford, if he's got 1 year left, he's going to put up a fight. They're going to get to where they need to get to. That offense looks good. Sean McVay knows how to win football games. Like, I'm not worried about the Rams. They'll get to the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl, but they'll get to the playoffs. This is where I'm down on the Cowboys, my friend, because I think that they get surpassed by the team you just mentioned, the Chicago Bears.
Oh, okay.
I think Chicago makes it. I am very big on the Chicago Bears this year. I know a lot of people want to say, oh, they're terrible first pick in the draft. They strategically lucked themselves into the first pick in the draft. 7-9 is very close to, like, it might only take 3 more wins to get you into the playoffs. And I get it. That 3 wins is big, but that 3 wins could be caught up by Roma Dunze, by Kyle or Keenan Allen, by a better offensive line, by DeAndre Swift. You got another year of Cole Kmet. You made a trade last season that playoff teams make this season to go get Josh Sweat. Like, that's not a trade that teams who have the first pick in the draft go and make. It's a trade that would likely happen this year at the break because some teams looking to make the playoffs and they need that push. And the Bears just did it a year early. So I'm going Bears. I think they get in there. I'm not saying the Bears are going to win a Super Bowl. I don't even think they're going to win a playoff game, but I do think that they're going to get themselves into the postseason. And I don't see the Cowboys finding themselves in the playoffs this year. I think this is the beginning of the end to Dallas and Jerry World down there. All right. So our playoff bracket is set. Let's go AFC, NFC championship games before we give you guys our Super Bowl. Let's start with the NFC. Your NFC championship game.
Yeah, I think San Francisco is going to be tough to contend with this year, especially since they have all those pieces back. It feels like they're ready to try to run it back for another season. The Eagles are going to be tough. The Packers are going to be tough. But this year, I think they were so close to getting it last year. They learned their lessons. They, took their medicine, as it were. And I think Detroit gets there this year. I think they finally do it. They head down to New Orleans, and Dan Campbell is eating Applebee's boneless wings and gnawing off kneecaps all the way down to New Orleans.
I like that. I wish I could agree with you. I'm going Lions. I think Lions get there. I do think Lions get there, but I think the other one is the Eagles. I think the Eagles are the team that find themselves in the NFC champ. That team's just good, man. Everybody, like you said it yesterday, I'm not up on Nick Sirianni. I'm a big Nick Sirianni guy. Big Nick Sirianni. Like, anybody who has that much passion, you're gonna get him somewhere. You're gonna get somebody riled up for something. I think that offensive line is what carries them. I think the defense only got better this offseason. They look crazy good. Crazy good. And I think Saquon's going to have a year. If he could stay healthy, Saquon's going to have a year. So I'm going Detroit. I'm going Eagles. I think the Eagles sneak their way into the playoff or into the Super Bowl second time in 3 years. And I think they're looking for some revenge with Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts and company over there in good old Philadelphia. The AFC, who you got?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to pick against the Kansas City Chiefs, isn't it? I mean, they've done it so many times, right?
Yes.
Who has beaten them in the AFC Championship game? Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. Now, do I have Joe Burrow winning?
I was going to say Joe Burrow's there.
I do. But at the same time, I feel like this team is better than it was last year. I feel like Patrick Mahomes has better weapons than he did last year. And until I see somebody actually take him down in the playoffs, I'm not going to go against them, especially in their current form. So I got to roll with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't like it, but at the same time, the smart money is on them.
Yeah. So I'm going Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, it's so hard to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs. On the other side of this, I'm going Houston Texans. I'm going Houston Texans find themselves in the postseason in the AFC Championship game. Now I'll toss out a little nugget here. I think the Steelers win themselves a playoff game. I do. I think they end up in the wild card. I think they win a playoff game against. I don't think they're the last one. I don't think they're the last. They're the last seed. I think they're maybe the 6th seed, and they find themselves playing. I don't know. Maybe it would be the Bills. Maybe it would be the Ravens, and they win a game. I think they win a playoff game this year. I think it's Houston versus Kansas City, and I'm going to pull a wild card here. I'm going the Houston Texans find themselves in the Super Bowl. Houston, Philadelphia. It's not the most star-studded, but I think this is the CJ Stroud year. If anybody's going to do it, just like you said, nobody's done it. Joe Burrow is the only one in the NFL that could pull this off. Well, let's see if CJ Stroud could, if he gets his opportunity. I'm going CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And then before the season kickoff, my friend, the big question, who you got winning the Super Bowl good down in good old New Orleans?
So I have Kansas City versus Detroit. Kansas City going for the three-peat, the first team in history to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Will they do it? No. I think it's Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions' long history of misery is over. I think the Lions take it back to Detroit this year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. That would be awesome. I keep telling him, I've told everybody for a year and a half out here, if Detroit wins the Super Bowl, we're packing up, we're going to the parade because, man, that would be awesome. I'm going the Houston Texans. I love the Philadelphia Eagles team. I think I don't love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me backtrack on that one, but I love their team. I think they got a lot of talent, and I think they get there and they know how to do things. But I think this is CJ Stroud's year. I think this is the Houston Texans' year. I think that defense is phenomenal. I think DeMarco Ryans, D'Amico, thank you, is a phenomenal head coach. And I think that offensive line, if they could stay healthy, is good enough to get them exactly where they want to go. Joe Mixon is a sneaky pickup for them from Cincinnati. And even if I don't have a lot of faith in Stephon Diggs, I think Tank Dell and Nico Collins are monsters. So I'm going CJ Stroud, Super Bowl champion this year over the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a tough one to say because I like the Eagles and I think that they have the team for it, but I just don't think they win one this year. I don't think they do. So I'm going the Houston Texans. You got the Detroit Lions out. This would be an awesome year. This would be an awesome NFL season if it did show up this way. We'll see if it does, but it would be pretty phenomenal. I mean, either way, anybody versus anybody who's not the Kansas City Chiefs would be a great Super Bowl, or the Baltimore Ravens. Yuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that'd just be boring, man. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Like, okay, cool. The Ravens, awesome. You know, like at least the Bengals, like, you know, you kind of respect them a little bit, and Joe Burrow, but now you got the face.
No, you do. It's still just sour taste in the mouth.
Yeah, it's not the greatest, you know, but Houston, Philly, Detroit, I'm all about it. All right, that's our season preview for you guys. If you got different predictions on the Super Bowl, toss them in there. Toss your winners in here. We want to know them all. We'll be back to answer all of your questions as we do every single day before we head out of here. But first, a word from our boys over at Game Time. Let's talk about Game Time. I could still taste the popcorn and the soda and smell the beer of my first Pittsburgh Steelers game. And yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars might have won that day, but I will never forget how loud Heinz Field was and how rocking that stadium was on the North Shore. Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes things like getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I have an upcoming concert in Cleveland the day after the Pittsburgh Steelers play against the Browns, and instead of sitting there clicking on every single section, I'm just going to use Game Time Picks. Let's talk about why it's so great. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. On top of that, you get all-in pricing, which means that you get the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. On top of that, you get seat views because nobody wants to buy some nosebleed seats for cheap and take a guess on whether you're staring at a pole or you just got the greatest deal in the entire venue. Plus, the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage means that your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, low prices, guaranteed. Shout out our boys over at Game Time. I'm still waiting on Creed. Last night, my wife is going to be so pissed that I brought this up, but I got to do it. Last night, I'm laying in bed, okay? And, you know, like you probably do the same thing. Like once in a while, you just bust out some Creed. You know, you just start singing some Creed to whatever. I like to sing Creed to the things that I'm doing. So I'll be like, I'm taking a poop. You know what I mean? Like loud, super loud. She starts going back at me. And that went on for, I think, an hour and a half of us just communicating in Creed. And you want to talk, it was like 10:30. I was wide awake. I was like, I could go to a Creed concert right now, actually. It was pretty great. It was pretty great.
That might have been one of the best covers of a song I've ever heard in my life. Like
you should hear me go, keep going. It gets
Weird Al Yankovic has nothing on you if that's what you're pulling out with just off the cuff. If that's just off the cuff, man, you could take them. You could take them.
I go all day long. Anything that I'm doing, I'll sing to myself. But when she's here, that at least gives me an audience. So I'm always, and it's always to hire. Sometimes it's one last breath, but for the most part, it's just the perfect tune to everything. And when she's going back, she's gonna hate me for this one. But when she's going back, she's having it. She's having it. All right.
I like this comment.
Oh my gosh.
Creed for Super Bowl halftime show. Wait, again, they did it already, did they not?
I don't know. Was I alive? Were you alive?
They did a halftime show.
No. Did they? Or
Whether
maybe we
Super
just
Bowl
weren't Creed. You know what I mean? Because when we grew up, Creed was like
Thanksgiving.
What do you
Sorry. It was Thanksgiving against it was in Dallas though, so kind of helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does a little bit, but still. It'd be awesome. I'll actually, if I ever run into, I run into Roger Goodell once a year, and that will be my, you know what I mean? I'll wait till he just gets a little liquored up at the party, and I'll go and be like, Raj, what's up, pal? Do I have a pitch for you, my friend? Taylor Swift, let me introduce you to this one. Can you take me higher? It would be, you're welcome, guys. You're welcome. It's happening. All right. Before we head out of here, let's answer all of your guys' questions. If you guys have more of them, make sure that you toss them in the chat. We'll answer all of them before we leave for the day. What do we got?
Let's go to Metal Method 99, who says, if Fields starts, is there a chance that Russell Wilson doesn't get his job back?
Yeah, I think depending on the outcome of the game and depending on how well Justin Fields plays, there is definitely a possibility. I could definitely see a crystal ball where Russ does not get his job back. And to be honest with you, it could be how long does he miss? Is this one game? Is it 2 games? Does he get hurt during the middle of the game? Does he play one game and then you have to pull him because he just clearly can't get it done. I think we're going to get a lot of things answered on Sunday, one way or another. And if Justin goes out there and balls out, it's going to be hard to say, hey, you got to sit now, especially 10 years younger with as much upside as Justin Fields has. It's really tough to say, oh, we're just going to pull the young kid to put the guy out there who's injured and 35 and can't do as much. It's just, I don't know. I see the possibility for sure. That being said, we still got to wait until Sunday to see what happens. And all of it's on Justin, because Russ could be healthy, could be not healthy. If Justin goes out there and doesn't play well, or just plays well enough where that they just win, but he doesn't do anything spectacular, there's no reason to keep him as the starting quarterback.
Let's go over to Vibin with the Dogs, who says, Noah, when is the Justin shirt dropping? You might actually need it.
Yeah, I might. I really might. Every time we talk about it, there's no reason to put it out. There's no reason to start selling, because I can't do that to somebody. We can't sell Justin Fields shirts. That's like selling Kyle Allen shirts, essentially. We just can't, if anybody was getting a shirt, it was John Rice Plumlee. Shout out the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just couldn't happen. So maybe if he plays Sunday, I can promise you there'll be a shirt on Sunday.
Let's go over to Marlon, who has a plethora of questions. First, he asks, buy us out of it, who's set up to have a bigger season, Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's even with the bias. It's Kirk Cousins, right? Do you feel differently? It's no. Kirk has good seasons. I don't remember a life without Kirk having a good season. So he's not going to win you a Super Bowl, but he's going to throw 40 touchdowns and 4,000 yards, and he's going to get you a divisional championship, because that's just what he does. So I would go Kirk Cousins. Easy answer, I think.
All right, let's go to Marlon, part 2 of 3. He says, I'm switching back to Mick Ultra, Lime Cactus for game time. What is your beer of choice during game time?
I'm a Mick Ultra guy through and through, my friend, through and through. But I'm trying to get into bourbon. I'm trying real hard to get into bourbon, just because Pops is into bourbon, and it would be, you know what I mean? Like everybody's got that, like sitting there. And my kids one day, I hope, are bourbon guys. But that being said, all the Steelers, everybody I go out with is always bourbon guys. And I'm like, this is disgusting, but I'm trying. But Mick Ultra, that's my brew of choice. Are you a beer drinker?
Yes, I'm a beer drinker. I'm either doing Miller Lite or Mick Ultra.
Okay, as long as you didn't say Bud Light. I was getting a little nervous there.
No, not Bud Light. Not Bud. Yeah. I feel like we've had that discussion before.
Probably.
You told me that I'm fired if I drink Bud Light, so I switched right away. Let's go over to Marlon's question, who has the final one here. Who are your Mount Rushmore of Steelers players?
All right, so Joe Green, my Mount Rushmore. Joe Green, Troy Polamalu, Ben Roethlisberger, and potentially Franco Harris, potentially Jack Lambert.
Yeah.
I feel like those are like the two that you could interchange them at any moment, but I would go with those three for sure, and then pick one of the other two, kind of depending on what side of the ball you want to roll with.
Yeah, and I think Jerome Bettis is an honorable mention on that list.
Yeah, I do. But I think
it's hard for that team. It's hard.
Yeah, I think that last spot. I think the first three are given, and then the last spot is up for debate.
Let's go over to Lifted Ones, who says, are the Steelers just pretending that he's injured to get better leverage on the Falcons? Seems like a chess move by Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I saw this one. I appreciate this question because it is you're thinking is spot on. But I'll tell you the situation as it played out, and that's why it is not a chess move by Mike Tomlin. The media was there. We get to request Tomlin once a week, so you could request him to be interviewed or to have a press conference outside of his Tuesday once a week. And once Russ wasn't out there, we requested. So he was not pumped to talk about that. I mean, you could go and look at he's pretty not happy about having to talk about Russell Wilson's injury. So I don't think it's a mind game. I think if anything, he'd want to hide it. And I also think that's why it's limited. I believe that they tossed him out there to do just like one or two or three. I didn't see how many individually reps he got, but that's all it takes to be limited. And I think that they did that just to make sure that it didn't say did not participate.
Noah wants to know, do you agree that George Pickens is the most valuable / important player currently on the Steelers roster?
No, I don't think I agree with that one. I think it's the quarterback, first of all, whoever the quarterback is. And then I want to say it's Broderick Jones. Like, I want to say Broderick Jones makes or breaks this team, because if he stinks, they stink. If he's phenomenal, they got a shot to be phenomenal, because they can run the football all day long behind Broderick Jones. So I want to go quarterback, and then I want to go Broderick Jones. But if we're going to be honest, I mean, proven time and time again, the most important player on this team is TJ Watt, because when he plays, they win. When he does not play, they don't win. 1-11 is an astonishing stat. Like, and until proven otherwise, you got to go TJ Watt.
Grayson wants to know, and a lot of people have echoed this, do you guys think that Justin Fields can plug into the lineup and be productive in week 1?
Yeah, I do. I think that he's worked at Justin Fields has an advantage compared to most backup quarterbacks, because he spent most of the summer as the starter working with the starting guys. They didn't go out and trade for Brandon Ayuk. This is the same group that he's worked with all summer long, the same offensive line, the same playbook. He's done it all. He's seen it all. And it was a quarterback competition, which means that he was still studying as if he was trying to be the starter, even if Mike Tomlin didn't tell him, hey, you're not going to be the starter. So I think he has an actual advantage compared to most backup quarterbacks. The only bad part is that teams will have tape on him compared to most backup quarterbacks, but at the same time, they don't have tape on him and Arthur Smith's offense, and Arthur Smith hasn't been an offensive coordinator in a while, so you don't know what's going to come here. It's a good advantage to have for the Steelers and for Justin Fields if he is a starter.
Let's go over to Nick Rose, who wants to know, what's Roman Wilson's situation currently with injury?
He was a limited participant today. I think he has to practice fully tomorrow. Otherwise, he's going to get slapped with the questionable tag. But we'll see what happens. I don't expect him to play much in week 1, if at all, to be honest with you. Maybe a little tiny bit, but really nothing. If I had to guess, he's going to be out, but they might activate him and just use him as an emergency worst case, but I would not have any expectations for him against the Falcons.
Brian says, hey, Noah, to your knowledge, is there any word on extending Najee Harris or Pat Freiermuth in the near future, or are we waiting for next offseason?
Yeah, Najee, I don't believe gets extended. Definitely not this season, maybe next season, but I highly doubt it. Pat Freiermuth, I expect to happen by Sunday. That expectation is obviously becoming more narrow, and we're getting much closer to Sunday than we think, but all it takes is one dotted line and a signature to get it all done. So it could happen any moment now. I still hold strong, or still have a feeling that Pat's going to get a deal done. Najee, I don't believe so.
Steven wants to know, if Russ does start week 1 and they include some packages for Justin Fields, is it safe to say that taking Justin with the over half anytime touchdown is still a safe bet?
Oh, safe is a strong word. Strong word. A educated ballsy bet. Yeah, sure. You know,
yeah.
if you're gonna look at it and say yes, but I would say this: Justin Fields over half a touchdown is like, it's a bet that I would think about. I would consider it. If you're saying, hey, whatever, man, screw it. Well, if you got a no sweat parlay or something, and you just need those odds, and the other two are guarantees, and you're saying, hey, screw it, man, toss it in here, I'm not gonna doubt you for it. In fact, I might take it with you. But safe is a strong word, because you don't know if that rush is going to come on the 50-yard line, on the 4-yard line, or come at all. So it's educated ballsy bet is what we're going to label that one.
Moises wants to know, Nick, can I see your shirt? Is that a Clemente shirt? It is. I'll stand up a little bit. Little Roberto Clemente action. One of my favorite shirts. You'll see it probably in the rotation a handful of times if you watch the show pretty regularly. Let's go over to Matt, who says, Noah, if Justin Fields starts and has a good game, but then is sat for Russell Wilson the following week, how do you think that affects his future with the Steelers organization?
If I'm Justin Fields, I'm a little ticked off that they didn't give me more of an opportunity. I think that's where it affects it. I don't think it affects the Steelers' outlook on him. I think it affects his outlook on the Steelers and his faith in having an opportunity there. I believe that would bother him, because it would bother me. I don't see why it wouldn't bother him. So I would say it's more of a Justin Fields thing than a Steelers thing, but it's not going to have a positive impact on the future of this team.
Steven says, Nick and Noah, Who do you have going tonight in your fantasy leagues, and what do you expect from those players?
Oh, who do I have tonight? I have Derrick Henry going tonight.
Oh,
and Travis Kelce going tonight. And I feel great about both of them.
So your
Same
week could
team,
be
too.
over by the end of tonight if those two don't play well.
Yeah, or I could, I still remember the year that the Steelers, maybe it was the Steelers. No, I think it was the Patriots opened the season on Thursday night, and Gronk and Tom had like a massive game, and I had both of them. And Friday morning, I had like 95 points in fantasy football, and I was like, all right, there it is. I lost that year, didn't win the Super Bowl because I never win the Super Bowl, but it was still a good morning. So it could go good, could go bad. I want to say that's all I have. I have Hollywood Brown, but he's out. So I think those are my only two.
Yeah, I've retired from fantasy football because I am absolutely horrible at it. I'm horrible at it. So I reserve my money to spend on actual sports betting, which I'm better at than the fantasy aspect of it.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
We're going to bring you out of retirement when we do
it's gonna be
all
tough.
Steelers Talk Fantasy Football League next year. Just
that might be the one way.
That's crazy, man. You must have such peaceful Sundays.
They're nice. They're very nice. I don't have to sweat. Imagine. I don't have to worry about a random kicker getting me 20 points. It's good. It's a nice, peaceful living. Yeah. Let's go to Paul Sherwood, who says, is it possible to get my hands on AST merch in the UK? Love what you guys do with your content.
Ooh, I want to say yes. Okay. I want to say yes. The link is on our YouTube page. It is right at the top there. It's blackandgoldapparel.shopify. Oh, let me get this right here before I give wrong information. blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com. See if they ship to the UK. If they don't, email me some way. Email the email on the website if you have to. And I'll make sure we hook you up with something.
All right, let's go over to Grayson, who says, what do you think the chances are that Justin Fields throws for over 250 yards if he does play in week 1?
I mean, never say never. Never say never. That being said, I don't know if I'd take that over. I don't know if I'd feel real good about that, but never say never. If he does, it opens up a whole can of worms about whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers got a quarterback conversation in week 2. But again, I don't think I'm confident in that happening, but I'm not going to say it can't.
Let's go to the next question that says, with his improved pass pro, will we see more Darnell Washington as a, for lack of a better term, extra left tackle in the 12-man personnel?
So Darnell Washington's actually dealing with a knee injury, did not practice today. I think his status for week 1 is definitely in question, which might hurt some things. But I do think Darnell Washington is going to play a massive role in the blocking game this year. I think it'll be more run than pass, but still a massive role. I think Troy Fautanu is going to come in as the jumbo tackle a lot, but I mean, Darnell Washington, you're that big. Michael Pruitt, dude, he's also a massive body. So I would expect both of those guys to be used as blockers quite a bit.
Chris Evans wants to know, do you guys throw down on any video games?
Oh yeah, all of them. Right now, I'm addicted to college football. I actually just finished up we're calling it the Den. I'm not a man cave. I don't like man cave vibe, I guess. So I like the Den. It was the man cave. Now it's the Den. Just finished it up. So we will be streaming again. But yeah, I get down on college football hard.
Let's go to Gunnar Davis, who asks, who else on the offense does it affect the most if Justin Fields starts, and what changes do you see in the play calling?
I see a lot more running football for the Steelers. I see a lot more read options for the Steelers. I see Justin Fields' athleticism being used to the max in this game if he is the starter. Besides that, I think it positively impacts the running game. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Cordero Patterson. It might negatively impact the wide receivers just because it's a different quarterback. Russell Wilson has better accuracy and timing than Justin Fields does. So you got to imagine that the passing game is going to get a little bit weaker. That being said, Justin Fields has had good games as a throwing quarterback, but I would imagine that change in play calls means that Justin Fields is going to run a lot.
Brock Walker says, I'm going to the Jets versus Steelers game on Sunday Night Football. Could you rate that matchup from 1 to 10?
I mean, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and the Pittsburgh Steelers are a good football team, That's a 10. That's 10 worthy right there. I'm always into seeing legends play. I went to go see the Steelers Broncos way back in the day when when Peyton Manning was there just to see him. Wasn't even a great game, but I just wanted to see Peyton Manning play. I'm all about legends playing. So I think it's it's an 8 matchup. It's a sound 8 with that one. If the Jets are good and if Aaron Rodgers is healthy.
Let's go to Vibin' with the Dogs, who asks, with Troy being a full participant today, do you expect him to play Sunday, or will he just be the backup of offensive tackle?
I do expect him to play, but he is going to be the backup. He's not going to start. He's only been healthy for one practice since that knee injury. You're not going to just toss him in there as a rookie. This is not a veteran. This is a guy who's essentially practiced once since the middle of July, or I guess the middle of August. So it's not favorable for him to start. I don't think that there are any plans for him to start. I would guess he's the backup offensive tackle, but I do expect him to be the backup offensive tackle. Like, he's the jumbo tackle, which is, you'll get some exposure there. He'll start to take steps forward.
And let's finish it off with Brian's question. He says, what do you think the Fields packages will look like? Trick plays, or possibly have Fields line up outside or in the backfield?
I don't expect anything with him. Like, somebody's asked me that before, and is Justin Fields going to be a wide receiver? No. I expect him to possibly Arthur Smith's got something up his sleeve, and you can never say never. But if I had to guess, it's just going to be read options on 3rd and 1s and that kind of stuff to quarterback draws, just to use his athleticism to give him options in RPOs, but also make sure that this is easy plays where he could get easy first downs and gain some yards and try to do that stuff. I mean, the read option is one of the hardest plays to stop in the NFL if you run it accurately. And I think Justin Fields can do that, and the Steelers will try to use that to their advantage. So I don't expect it to be anything crazy, simple read options and RPOs. But again, you just never know. This is the NFL. This is a new thing. Arthur Smith, you saw it today. You watched the press conference with Arthur Smith when Will Graves asked him about some Justin Fields packs. That smile was big, my friend. That was a big. And I was like, oh man, you got it, because that's a yes. That's a yes. So I don't expect anything crazy, but you just never know.
Let's finish it off with this one, actually. Richard Hunt says, what does a day in the life of Noah look like on game day?
You don't want to know, my friend. It's a long one. So the alarm clock goes off at 5:30. I try to get out of bed just before 6 o'clock. Takes by 5:30 in the morning. I mean, Nick gets up at that hour every day because he's a lunatic. So I'm typically a 6. You roll out of bed at 6 type of guy. I try to get up before 6 on game days. You're working immediately. I'm on the laptop by about 6:30. I try to get a half hour, some sunlight in, so that I don't have a headache at some point during the day. I'm working by 6:30. Right around like 7:30, 7:45, I try to go get some breakfast and some coffee, whatever. Come back, shower, get ready for the day. At this point, it's like maybe 9 the latest. Work again for like another hour. We're on the road. If it's a 1 o'clock game, we're on the road to the game. Get there about, I don't know, before 11, and do my walk over, send it to Nick, get into the stadium, eat some food, and just start working again. And then we get home. If it's a 1 o'clock game, you hope to be home just at kickoff of the 8 o'clock game. If it's a 4 o'clock game, you hope to be home by halftime of the 8 o'clock game. If it's a night game, I'm usually rolling in about 2, 3 in the morning. So it's a good time, my friends. Game days they're a great time. I can't complain about them at all, but they're long days.
That's a wrap for today, then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers for all the Ravens Chiefs updates tonight. Make sure to check out si.com/NFL/Ravens and check out my boy John Alfano on Twitter. He'll get you hooked up with everything you need to know inside and out with this game tonight. Thank you guys so much. I hope everybody has a good night betting on DraftKings, and we will talk tomorrow. Peace.